on this edition of It's a Miracle. A police officer called to investigate a domestic disturbance walks into the line of fire.
Basically, they told me,
we're not feeling hopeful that he's going to survive this.
there's been way too much damage done, and he's not going to live.
Now, family and friends gather to pray for a miracle. And see real home video footage as 3 girls are swept away by a gigantic wave, and all of them survive.
You come to the beach to have a good day. You don't come here to die.
Watch the dramatic action of this amazing story as it happens. Then, the amazing story of a crack-addicted baby abandoned and left to die. But another fate awaits this child, one that no one could have predicted, and that many would call a miracle. And later, a family of 3 on an Australian sailing expedition are capsized. See the miraculous rescue. And what would you do if your child suddenly disappeared and the trail he left behind led to the water's edge? The story of an unexpected hero. These stories and more on this edition of It's a Miracle.
Oh, it's a miracle, happening to everyday people, changing their lives forever. It's a miracle.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to It's a Miracle. I'm Richard Thomas.
And I'm Nia Peoples. Have you ever been at a loss to explain a wondrous event that changed your life in a critical moment?
Something over which you had no control, where perhaps some other force was at work.
Could it have been a miracle? Well, that's just the question the people in our first story asked.
For 19 years, Don Mauldin served as a law enforcement officer whose dedication and perceptiveness is remembered by his supervisor, Sergeant Joe Martinez.
Don was really a warrior of the streets. He was so good at perceiving what was going to happen. His instincts it's not something you can teach. He had them.
Don's professional dedication led him to seek out the most dangerous assignments, and in December 1993, he got the last one he would ever go out on. Mysteriously sensing that something terrible was about to happen, he called his wife, Maggie.
Hi, hon.
He was saying, we just got a call, and there's a man with a gun.
I got a bad feeling about this one.
He had never ever called before and said, you know, I've got a bad feeling about something. It was totally out of character for him to do that.
Bye-bye.
And I should have known something was going to happen, but I just thought, everything's going to be okay, you know.
The 911 call was from the wife of a paroled murderer and suspected drug dealer. He had beaten her, held a gun to her head, and threatened to kill her. Later, it was learned that he had also threatened to kill any police officer who showed up at his house. Don and his partner were the first to approach the building.
Sheriff's Department.
They found the door unlocked. The woman who had placed the 911 call had given them consent to search, and so now they entered the premises. Both Don and his partner were shot point blank in the head.
The suspect then went out the back and engaged in gunfire with another one of our patrolmen. The suspect was shot, and then he was apprehended.
Amazingly, the bullet that hit Don's partner had deflected off the protective glasses he had worn that day and had caused only minor injury.
Officers down, officers down.
But Don had been hit square in the forehead with the shot from the .357 Magnum.
It was a worst nightmare come true. So then it was my job to get Don's wife and take her to the hospital.
Every police officer's wife always thinks, what'll I do when I get that call? What would I do? And I thought about it many times in my mind, what would I do? And nothing prepares you for it. I heard this car pull up onto my sidewalk, and I got up to go see what was going on. And I saw Joe Martinez.
Joe, what happened?
And tears were streaming down his face, and in that split second, I knew.
Don's been shot.
And he said, Maggie, you've got to come. And it's like my life imploded upon itself at that point.
Don had been rushed to a local hospital, but there was very little his doctor, Curtis Dickman, could do for him.
He had a very large blast injury to his forehead and had bone fragments that were shattered and spread throughout the frontal lobes of his brain. We expected Don to die.
After the doctors had stabilized Don's condition, Maggie was finally able to see her husband.
I saw a person laying there, and there was a large bandage around the head, and the face was very much swollen and just horrific looking. And just for a few seconds, I thought they've made a mistake. It's not Don. It's not him, because it didn't look like him at all. And then I saw the tattoo on his arm, and I knew that it was Don.
Dr. Dickman explains the seriousness of the situation to Maggie.
Okay,
And basically they told me
we're not feeling hopeful that he's going to survive this.
there's been way too much damage done, and he's not going to live. I just felt like I was alternating between hysteria and numbness. It was like some kind of horrendous nightmare, and I was just waiting to wake up.
Soon, dozens of police officers and friends gathered in the hospital's chapel to pray for Don as he lay near death.
I remember telling him, if this is your time to go, Don, then you go with the man. But if it's not your time, don't give in. Don't give up. Fight it. Fight it with everything you have, Don. And if you will fight it, I promise you, you won't be in this by yourself. I will show up here every single day till we walk out the front doors together.
But the truth was that Don was on life support, and some hard decisions had to be made. The doctor asked Maggie if she knew what Don's wishes were concerning being kept alive artificially.
I remember her shaking her head no, and she began to cry, and I could see that they were putting a tremendous decision on her. And I remember saying, Doc, you know what? Don has told me if staying alive means staying on a machine, he doesn't want that.
He wouldn't want to live like this.
And I think the doctor did something that was really merciful. He pointed at me and he says, if he's heard that straight from Don, that's all we need to know.
I'll leave you two alone.
Thank you, Doctor.
The decision was made,
Maggie, you ready to do this?
and with his wife and his best friend at his side, Don's respirator was turned off. Stay tuned for the exciting conclusion after this. December 11th, 1993, law enforcement officer Don Mauldin is called to investigate a domestic disturbance and suddenly becomes the victim of a point-blank shot to the head. He is rushed to a local hospital, but the bullet has caused extensive damage to the brain, and Don is not expected to live. Without hope of recovery, his wife Maggie is forced to make the difficult decision to remove him from life support. And so with his wife and best friend by his side,
You ready to do this?
Don's respirator is turned off. But he keeps on breathing.
It was miraculous. For as much damage that had been done to his brain in that head injury, for him to just keep on breathing like that, it just sent a wave of hope through everyone.
Check in one
Hours
time
later,
before I went
when the
home for
doctors
evening.
were examining Don, he moved his left hand.
He moved his hand.
This was not supposed to happen with severe brain damage patients.
With a recovery of function, we recommended that we take Don to surgery and give him the full court press. Take the bone fragments out of the brain
It's definitely a sign
to give him every opportunity possible to heal.
So we're gonna get him prepped. We'll get him into surgery, and
We'll speak to you when it's over.
Okay, great.
They said, we've talked with the other doctors, and there's only about a 1% chance that he's going to even come through the procedure.
I said, but, you know, it's Christmas time. I says, there's always a miracle around Christmas. Don't be mad at us if we hope and pray that Don is that 1 in a million Christmas time miracle.
The operation lasted 6 hours, and Don did survive. Maggie and Joe were warned that he would most likely remain in a coma, but that didn't dampen their spirits.
We were so elated that he was alive. We were actually laughing, and I found it quite ironic that we were laughing at such a terrible time, but I felt so relieved and so happy, you know, that he had survived.
And so now they waited and prayed. But days passed and Don remained in his coma. And then on December 21st, with Christmas approaching, something happened that no one can explain.
Don?
Don woke from his coma and mouthed the words, "I love you."
Oh, baby. I love you too.
It made Christmas a lot better, having him come out of that coma.
Joe!
He's trying to speak. It's like a rush like you never know. Really a lifting of spirits.
He's awake.
Maybe this is not going to be such a dark Christmas after all.
And 4.5 months later, Joe's promise to Don came true.
We walked out the front doors together. Just like I said. He kept his end and I kept mine. I feel like we're part of something special. I don't know, we really survived a trying time that most friends don't have to be put through, don't you think?
Yeah, we did. I'm very lucky.
Well, obviously Don's not the same guy he was before, but he still has done tremendous.
After literally staring death in the face and staying alive against all odds, Don and his family continue to marvel at the amazing gift they were given.
The doctor told me for him to have any quality of life, it would take a bigger miracle than any of us have ever heard of. Those were his words. Don did it.
Don?
Don did it. So he is that miracle.
We'll be right back after this. Have you ever been at a loss to explain a wondrous event that changed your life in a critical moment? Something over which you had no control, where perhaps some other force was at work? That's exactly what happened to a mother and 3 children on a trip they took to Newport Beach, California. Could it have been a miracle? You decide.
When teenagers Myrna and Marie Demergian, their cousin Lena, and Lena's mother went to the beach, the last thing they were thinking about was a miracle. They were just out to have some fun in the sun. Mel Toman noticed the attractive threesome and followed them with his camera.
Like, people like that really don't have a clue, and obviously they didn't realize how big it was. It was, you know, huge.
Mel has been coming down to this beach for over 20 years. He's a cameraman, and on this day, the waves were the most incredible that he had ever seen. Just minutes after the girls arrived, ignoring the red warning flags, they were unaware they were planted at ground zero of the wave's most dangerous impact zone. Fred Simpson, a longtime friend, joined Mel on the beach.
The sets are just huge.
That's right, it's hot.
But check out these girls over here back.
That's trouble.
Surge.
Look, I don't even know what's going on.
What did they tell them back in Iowa? We were down at the seashore.
Watch it. They get sucked. This one's still...
It's just as a matter of conversation, that's trouble. I mean, we knew that was trouble. We knew those 3 girls were trouble. We knew it was trouble waiting to happen.
An ugly swell came up that the surfers call the freight train, with good reason. It's as brutal and as big as they come. This is actual footage of the 3 girls being swept out to sea.
You better get going. As I recall, she went into the wall and sucked under and didn't come up. Now, I thought she was dead. I seriously thought she would never be seen again alive, because the time this happened before, 2 girls died like that. Died.
Marie was knocked down, then the riptide grabbed her. In a matter of seconds, she was out of control and pounded by the waves' deadly surf. None of the girls knew how to swim. Lena tried desperately to reach her cousins. Myrna, too, became a victim, pummeled by the waves.
It's like one of those things where you're just going, is this really happening? And then hearing the screaming from, I guess, their mom or whatever. And Fred was, saying, get the lifeguard.
Body surfer J.T. Nickerson heard Mel's screams and was able to bring Myrna on shore before another set hit. Newport Beach lifeguards immediately moved in with first aid.
It was like triage almost. I mean, it was just crazy. Because usually you're only dealing with one person, maybe 2. And then we have a handful, and they're all really bad, and the surf's really big, and it's just going to be a tough time.
There were still 2 girls in the pounding surf. Marie was still struggling, but Lena was knocked unconscious by the force of the waves.
I didn't think she'd ever come up, and I didn't even think I could go down and get her. I didn't even consider trying to rescue that one because I knew she'd be found in shallow water in probably about 5 minutes. Where the second one ran in, I watched her, and she popped up the backside, and she started drifting out into the break line, in no man's land. So I went after the one I could see.
Lifeguard Jeff Harvey called for a rescue boat and more backup because the situation was now at a critical stage.
Our boats just happened to be coming out of the harbor, which is the luckiest thing in the world. Coming out early because there's big surf. They responded very quickly.
If another set came in and caught her, she might have drowned. If the set didn't come in, I got her out past the surf line before the set hit. She was scared. In fact, was asking about the other girl, would she be all right? And I was telling her, yes, she would be. Thinking, seriously, I thought she would be dead.
At that moment, Lena was held underwater by the powerful riptide. Marie continued to scream about her sister. The lifeguards knew that a second girl was rescued on the beach. What they didn't realize was that there were actually 3 girls. There was still another victim. In the confusion, the lifeguards prepared to leave the scene, leaving Lena in the watery grave known as the Wedge.
I think they were about to leave, but that one girl was still somewhere.
5320 to Sea Watch, you're going to need to stand by this location. We still have 1 victim unaccounted for in the water.
There's 1 more down!
Oh my God, that's my sister!
There!
That's my sister! That's my sister!
Get over there! Get over there! Stay right there! Stay there!
When they got her, she was, clinically dead. I mean, well, no heart and no breathing, so by definition, dead.
Get back, get back.
As the lifeguards on board the rescue boat tried to revive Lena, back on the beach, their mother is hysterical watching the events unfold.
We had the Wedge crew, people really experienced watermen, just really in a high state of anxiety. And I started helping JT bring in the other girl. As we were treating her, that's when we had the secondary victim. The mother had the heart attack.
She apparently just lost it. Watching her daughters go down. I had monitored her vitals and just tried to stabilize her because she was having a heart problem. Her pulse was really rapid and weak and basically in shock. You come to the beach to have a good day. You don't come here to die.
With the mother stabilized on the beach, back on the boat, they continued to work on Lena.
Is she okay?
They resuscitated her going around the jetty. I guess she was breathing by the time she got over here, but she was, I don't know what her religion is, but she ought to start thanking people.
Fred and Mel both agree that these amazing circumstances were something more than luck. Too many good things happened this miraculous day in Newport Beach.
The mother and all 3 girls are alive and doing just fine today. They claim that what happened at the Wedge was more than just coincidence. It was definitely a miracle. We'll be right back.
It's a miracle.
We return now to one of the first stories presented on It's a Miracle. It represents the very essence of what this series is about, and it touched many of our viewers because it's the kind of miracle that can happen to any of us if we're willing to open our hearts. It's about the power of love and how it can triumph over impossible odds, and it starts with a tragic and shocking discovery.
In 1982, a newborn boy was abandoned at the door of a Los Angeles hospital. There was no note, no explanation, just an innocent child left to fend for himself. As you're about to see, it's going to take a miracle and the love of dedicated parents for this child to survive. He was born addicted to crack cocaine. The infant was going through severe withdrawal and would most likely suffer severe brain damage. Forsaken, weak, with no one to care for him, the obstacles this infant faced seemed insurmountable. Dr. Mitchell Goldstein is a staff neonatologist at Providence St. Joseph Hospital in Burbank, California.
With these babies who have had cocaine exposure, the babies without the ability to really direct attention, without the ability to really focus on what is normal newborn function, are unable to really get attached to the mom and the father and really essentially experience what it is to be a newborn.
To provide foster care for the infant, the Los Angeles County Child Welfare Agency contacted Isla and Dale Pauley, veteran foster parents.
We wasn't concerned about having a drug-addicted baby because we really didn't know what it involved.
We went into it with our eyes open, with no reservations, no preconceived ideas. We just knew that this child needed a home. He was very sick, and he needed someone to love him.
The Pauleys named the baby Dale Daniel, Dee Dee for short. Although they had no previous experience caring for drug-addicted infants, what they lacked in professional expertise, they made up for in love.
The first day and night that we had him, he cried continually. He flailed about. He was unable to relax. This cry of a drug-addicted baby is so much different than a regular, normal baby. It's almost a piercing, urgent, frightening cry that they have, and it's because they're in pain. They're withdrawing from drugs. And so we tried to keep him calm, and rocking seemed to calm him.
The Pauleys' first days with Dee Dee were filled with tension. In spite of their best efforts, Dee Dee was unable to develop any regular sleep patterns and was suffering from severe sleep deprivation.
The prognosis at first with Dee Dee was to be told so many times over and over, well, you're wasting your time. He's not going to really develop normally. He will have problems all of his life.
But the Pauleys saw something special in Dee Dee that the doctors could not. When Dee Dee was 2 years old, Isla and Dale legally adopted their foster son.
And we did not accept anyone's prognosis that he wasn't going to be totally normal the rest of his life. We knew that there was a real spark in him, so we tried to develop that.
Slowly, painstakingly, little Dee Dee began to show signs of recovery. But for every step forward, there were 2 steps back.
He loved school, he loved kindergarten, but he would inappropriately get up and walk around the room or twirl or decide that he was going to talk continually and disrupt the entire school. The teachers were not able to cope with it.
When it was obvious that Dee Dee could not function in a normal school environment, the Pauleys took on an even more difficult task. They chose to homeschool their son.
I began to teach him, and I realized he's learning very rapidly. But he was able to do his stimulating himself with the twirling and the rocking in between. But when he wasn't doing it, I was able to get through to him, to teach him, and he retained it.
I named
name is Dee Dee Polly. Welcome to Griffith Park Travel Town.
As Dee Dee entered his middle school years, his ability to learn increased rapidly. Still under his parents' homeschool tutoring, Dee Dee made a remarkable decision. He told his parents that he wanted to finish high school 2 years early.
When he decided that he was going to double up on his courses, there were many times I said to my husband, he'll never make it. This is too much of a challenge. It's too hard of a job.
He didn't listen to people when they said he was going to fail. And that's the way he's going to be going through his whole life.
Day after day, hour after hour, Dee Dee pored over English, math, history, and science courses. With every step, his parents were by his side, encouraging him and praying for him.
Dee Dee is very special, and he has high ideals. And he's expressed it to us and to other people, too, that he's going to really do something special. And we believe he is.
I want to present this diploma to Dee Dee Polly, Dale Daniel Polly.
In June of 1998, Dee Dee Polly proved to the world that he was capable of meeting the challenge. At age 16, he graduated from high school as valedictorian of his homeschool group. Next year, Dee Dee will be attending college.
It's really rewarding to me as a teacher to see him tonight, to stand up there and give his speech. And I'm just very, very proud.
I would like to thank my mother, Isla Polly, for providing me with the means to graduate from high school and for spending countless hours advising me and caring for my physical, spiritual, and financial needs. I love you, Mom. I would like to also thank my father, Dale Polly, for his timeless adages and advice and counsel wrought from over 50 years of experience and lots of hard work. I love you too, Dad. Congratulations to all the students and graduates. Thank you, and God bless you.
A child has overcome the disadvantage, essentially, of drug addiction at birth and gone on to succeed despite this. The miracle here is that this child has done so well despite society. You really don't see this. This is truly unique.
For Dee Dee, Isla, and Dale Polly, the dramatic turnaround of Dee Dee's life is nothing short of a miracle.
The miracle for me here is that someone who could have ended up on such a bad place, the ghetto, and maybe being in drugs and gangs and stuff, it could end up the way I am, graduating 2 years early, with great parents like mine.
I just love him so much, and I'm so proud of him, and I'm proud of everything that the kids have accomplished here. All the kids, but especially our son.
Miracles can happen when people believe, whether the miracle be from something spiritual or from within yourself. And Dee Dee may himself may have generated the miracle by defying all the odds.
As a result of our earlier broadcast of this story, Dee Dee Polly came to the attention of Lucent Technologies. They presented Dee Dee with a $2,500 scholarship and a pledge to keep helping him with his education as long as he maintains good grades. Dee Dee is currently a freshman at Valley College in Van Nuys, California, and we have no doubt that he will be a great success. Stay with us for more true stories on It's a Miracle.
Our next story takes us to the land down under, Australia. Many people of Oz consider themselves rugged individualists, ready and willing to take on a challenge. But when they go against Mother Nature, things don't always go as planned. And that's exactly what happened to a family of 3 on a sailing expedition on the beautiful yet dangerous Great Barrier Reef. On the southern tip of the reef near Queensland is Morton's Bay, a favorite sailing destination for its crystal clear waters. But on May 9th, 1980, Mel Dixon and his family sailed into the normally calm waters of the bay and directly into a cyclone.
As the wind picked up, the sea picked up. And I believe later on they did say that there was a cyclone out at sea which hadn't been reported.
By the time they realized the danger they were in, it was too late to turn back.
We had made radio contact and I was just hoping that somebody would come out and reach us soon. It just seemed to go on and on and on.
While a police rescue boat headed for the Dixon's yacht, a local news crew picked up the distress call and was there to actually capture a series of miraculous moments on tape. Immediately after arriving, the one thing that everyone feared most actually happened. A giant 25-foot wave hit the craft, tossing it like a toy boat, destroying the mast and wrapping the anchor chain around its hull. Here was the first miracle. The battered boat was able to right itself and continue floating in the raging waters. Mel Dixon was actually thrown overboard during the 360-degree turn, and it was then that a second miracle occurred. The thin rope that fastened him to the ship held, and he was able to pull himself back on board to join his family.
And Mel had concern for me because I was pregnant at the time.
While they braced themselves for the next wave, the Coast Guard finally arrived, but couldn't reach the Dixon's yacht. Their small boat was trapped in a trough between another set of killer waves. Suddenly, they were struck, and now there were 2 more victims with no way out.
I thought, oh no. I thought, here we go.
Luckily, the Dixon's yacht was able to ride the waves to calmer waters. But for volunteer Coast Guard rescuers, Colin Ward and Vern Bunter, the drama was just beginning. And so was the third miracle of that day. A second news crew arrived on the scene. Their regular helicopter was in for service, but they'd grabbed a rental, a fully equipped rescue copter. Without any training for this type of mission, they proceeded to attempt to rescue the 2 men. First, Colin Ward.
At this stage, we were sort of floundering around and wondering what we were going to do. And then suddenly we saw the helicopter about 10 feet above us, and he come down very low. We saw the door open, and the cameraman had put his camera down at this stage, and he was gesturing to come on board.
The second rescue would be more difficult. With the boat bobbing wildly in the water, the helicopter pilot risks a close pass, and Vern Bunter jumps onto the skid, literally hanging on for his life, and finally climbing to safety.
I believe that day was a very lucky day for everybody, people on board the yacht especially. When they did that 360-degree rollover, they were extremely lucky.
Was it luck or a miracle that the boat continued to float under these incredible conditions? And that those on board suffered only minor injuries?
Lee had a little bruise on a hip. I had just a cut above my eye with a couple of stitches, and I checked the baby out, and the baby was still kicking and fine.
Mel Dixon's injuries were remarkably minor. He had only a few cuts, the largest on his ankle requiring just 6 stitches. There was also a rope burn around his neck, a reminder of the second miracle that day, when a safety harness withstood a force that even a ship's mast could not endure.
This was the safety harness that I was wearing on that day, and as you can see, she's almost severed through here. I don't think if I'd have gone back in the water another time that she would have held me.
And finally, was it a miracle or just coincidence that a news crew found themselves in a rented rescue helicopter that day? For the Dixons and everyone else who lived through that terrifying experience, the answer is clear. It was a miracle.
Coming up on It's a Miracle. What would you do if your child suddenly disappeared and the trail he left behind led to the water's edge? The story of an unexpected hero when It's a Miracle returns.
Our next story is about how one good deed deserves another. How hopefully a helping hand will be returned in time of need. But the good deed and the helping hand in this case come from a very unexpected source. So unexpected, it's hard not to believe it's a miracle. In Pontotoc, Mississippi, Jeff and Deanne Stafford, their 3-year-old son Nolan, and dog AC often spend their time enjoying the pristine beauty of a lake near their home. AC and Nolan have become inseparable. In fact, the dog's bond with Nolan brought about a miracle that changed these people's lives. AC, a Chesapeake Bay retriever, came into Jeff Stafford's life in 1994. Jeff adopted the horribly abused dog when it had been left at a veterinarian to be put to sleep. The dog was in serious condition. Jeff immediately noticed the animal was suffering the effects of the overuse of an electric shock collar.
When I got him, all his eyes were dilated and they were just red. You can see now the color's back, but his eyes were dilated and like he's been shot for several months. And he was real skittish. I couldn't do this right here by no way. He was definitely on death row. He had 2 days left. They were gonna put him to sleep on a Tuesday. I picked him up on a Sunday afternoon.
Jeff named the dog AC. Slowly, Jeff nursed the devastated animal back to health. In 1994, Jeff married Deanne, and soon, the couple had a son, Nolan.
Nolan is a lot like his father. He was always smiling. He was just a happy child.
But then a terrifying incident would jeopardize young Nolan's life. In November of 1996, Jeff was away from home and Deanne was doing yard work when she experienced every parent's worst nightmare. Nolan, then 17 months old, was playing in the yard with AC. He and the dog wandered off.
I just turned around and I did not see him.
Nolan? Nolan!
And of course I just thought, well, he's around here. They just probably walked around the side of the house. Well, I began to walk around the side of the house. And I noticed then that the dog was gone too. So I knew, okay, well, they're just walking around the house or something. I realized then that they had wandered off in the woods.
Hello, my name is Deanne Stafford. I was just out in the yard doing some work, and my son, Nolan, was outside playing, and I don't know, we have a lot of woods around our house, and I think maybe he wandered off into the woods with a dog.
Deanne was overwhelmed with fear.
And then I thought of our lake. It was the last thing, of course, that I thought of because it's just such a distance from our house. And I had never taken him down there. He had never been there.
Nolan! AC!
When Deanne reached the water's edge, Nolan was nowhere to be seen. Chills ran up her spine when she spotted her son's hat laying on the pier.
I remember just looking up and I just said, oh God, no, please let him be okay. Please.
Deanne scanned the waters for any sign of life and experienced a moment she will never forget.
Something startled me on the side of my left eye. And I looked, and about 15 feet around the pier, there's AC. And I looked down below him, and there's Nolan. Nolan's laying face down, hands up on the water, the bank, his chest down. He's still in the water. Well, I just said, oh God, no. And I ran over there and I picked him up and he was soaking wet and his mouth was full of black mud and was trying to breathe but having a difficult time doing it. From that point, I just tried to get him back to the best of my ability up to the top of the hill because he was so heavy. And I finally got back up here and the police were here and they took us to the hospital.
When Nolan arrived at the emergency room, his body temperature had plummeted to 80 degrees. Jeff rushed to the hospital.
When I walked in the room, it just about floored me because my boy's in a tent, Deanne's still crying, she's in shock, and the room's about 120 degrees.
I really had a hard time that whole time I was there dealing with my feelings of not watching him closely enough. I felt negligent, I felt guilty.
Deanne and Jeff believe little Nolan was rescued by a guardian angel in the form of their dog, AC. After doctors removed Nolan's clothing, Deanne noticed that his jacket and pants leg had been ripped, as if pulled by AC. Deanne also remembered that when she picked up Nolan's hat from the pier, it was soaking wet.
What we really feel like happened was Nolan fell off the boat ramp, and AC made an attempt to grab him by grabbing the hat, realizing that he did not get the child, and then went back in. I think Nolan was going toward the bottom, and AC grabbed his pants leg and torn, and made another attempt and just grabbed more clothing and swam to the side of the lake.
The child had no sense of danger. He likes to wander, and he wandered way down to the lake. He wandered into the water, and AC pulled him out.
Slowly, Nolan began to improve. Deanne and Jeff heard the good news. Nolan was going to recover.
Naturally, it was wonderful, wonderful feeling. But still, when I got home, I had nightmares. I kept seeing him in the lake. I kept seeing the dog there. I relived it a million times and still do. Then I realized that God had blessed me in a very special way.
To Deanne and Jeff, there was no doubt in their minds that they had witnessed a miracle.
This child could not swim. That's a known fact. So the dog being there and saving his life is nothing short of a miracle.
Go get it!
Today, Nolan is an active and happy 3-year-old, thanks to AC, who continues to remain Nolan's protector.
It's like his angel, it's his best friend, you know, it's his half-brother, how you want to call it. He's always there.
He got my lips.
I feel like that this was a sign that God is very real, that he works through all creatures, and that nothing is beyond his reach.
Stay with us for more amazing stories on It's a Miracle. Join us again next week when we'll bring you more fascinating stories that defy belief.
See you next time on It's a Miracle.